Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us once again. Just wait for a few more people to come through. Okay, perfect. Right. Well, I think we'll make a nice kind of prompt start. So yeah, thank you very much once again for joining us tonight. My name is Chris Freeman. I work as a product manager at Breedr, and I have two guests again with me tonight. So we've got Sarah Pick from AHDB Beef and Lamb, and we've got Charlie Beaty, third generation suckler farmer. So if Sarah and Charlie are there, I don't want to speak on your behalf. So Sarah and Charlie, do you want to just do some very quick introductions?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Pick, and I work in the knowledge exchange team for AHDB Beef and Lamb, and it's lovely to be here this evening.
Okay. Charlie?
Sorry, my unmute button stopped working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Charlie. I'm a third generation on this farm here, mixed farmer from Warwickshire. So we're beef, sheep, and arable. We're lambing at the moment, so I'll probably disappear in about half an hour, but hopefully we'll be back.
Perfect. Yeah. No. Yeah. Thanks very much, Charlie. I know it's a very busy time for you at the minute. So yeah, if Charlie suddenly disappears, it's a lambing emergency. So that's all good. Okay, perfect. So again, the agenda for tonight, obviously this is part of Breedr's new SucklerClub initiative. So I'll do a brief overview of what SucklerClub is. And then we're going to be covering two main topics this evening. We're going to be talking about weaning and PD testing. So obviously, suitable for autumn calving herds, but still applicable for those spring calving herds as well. So the content around that will involve some technical presentations from Sarah. I'll be doing a bit of a demo of the Breedr app for those particular periods and showing you what data can be caught. And then we'll bring Charlie back in if she's not outside lambing, just to have a bit of a discussion. Please ask questions throughout the evening, and we'll pick up those questions in the discussion. And we will try to be done within the hour. So first of all, just a very quick brief overview for those of you who are not fully aware of what Breedr does. So Breedr is coming up for its 2-year birthday. We were launched into the UK market of March 2020 with the aim of supporting livestock producers, help drive efficiencies and profitability by providing the tools to unlock and capture on-farm data. Now, that capture of data is at the core of what we do, and what that enables us to do is it enables us to provide 3 separate services. So as part of that triangle at the top on the performance analytics side, so we help you capture the data, we then interpret it, and we then tell you effectively what it is telling you. The second part of that is we have built an online trading platform. So again, what you are effectively doing when you're capturing data against animals is you are proving their worth. So whether that's vaccinations or daily live weight gain, you can then buy and sell animals with the visibility of all of that historic data. And then thirdly, we can now offer farmers cash flow options. So again, what you're doing when you're capturing that data on those animals is effectively you are increasing their value. That enables us to advance you payment on those animals. So we effectively buy those animals, but instead of giving you one big lump fee at the end, we can effectively trickle feed you money to help with cash flow. But so tonight, so that's Breedr in a nutshell. But tonight we're going to be focusing predominantly on that performance side of things, on the performance analytics. Obviously, with the focus on breeding related issues. So SucklerClub, what is SucklerClub? So SucklerClub is a breeder-led initiative aiming to support all of our suckler farmers who are on Breedr. And the aim is to improve and provide them with a greater understanding and a slightly deeper insight into the overall fertility status of their herds. And the way we are effectively doing that is we are trying to bring the industry together. So Breedr is there to provide the tools so that the app to capture that data. That's where we like to invite industry experts like Sarah to come and provide you with a bit of the background, the technical knowledge into what that data is effectively telling you, and how it can be used to improve your business. And then, of course, at the heart of all of this is our farmers itself. So again, that's why we want to engage with our farmers, and that's why Charlie is here with us tonight to share her experiences of how her suckler business is running. So how does SucklerClub work? So SucklerClub is effectively based off a breeding season, and the way we have created our breeding season is we've divided it up into 4 distinct periods, of which the farmers can join at any time. And what it does is we provide guidance for each of those distinct periods. So we tell you kind of tasks that you could be focusing on, what KPI targets you should be kind of striving to achieve. And then obviously from the breeder side is how you can capture that specific data and how you can interpret it. And then providing you with that technical background to help you understand how you can improve. So again, what are those 4 distinct breeding periods? Well, the first one, we start our breeding cycle at the service time. So when the bulls go in or when you're serving to AI, that's then followed by the PD testing. That is then the third one is obviously calving. And then we determine the weaning as kind of completing that entire breeding cycle. And as part of SucklerClub, we are providing, what resources we're providing. Well, this one right here, as you can see on the screen, is our breeding calendar. So this is based at for autumn calving herds. We also have the equivalent for spring calving. And when you sign up for Breedr and you state on your account setup that you are a suckler farmer, you will get one of these calendars that's an A2 size, so you can pin it up on your office wall. So you'll get one of them in the post. And then again, other resources obviously include webinars like tonight. Charlie, you can follow Charlie's journey on social media, and we're also writing technical blogs as well, which you can find links to on the website and by scanning these QR codes. So kind of without further ado, really, I'd like to introduce tonight. So obviously tonight, as you can see there on the highlighted calendar, is we're going to be focusing on the PD and the weaning phases of the breeding calendar. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to pass over to our first presentation by Sarah, and you just prompt me and I'll drive the slides for you, Sarah. Just let me know when.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Sarah Pick and I work for AHDB in the Beef and Lamb Knowledge Exchange team. And I also have a particular soft spot for the suckler herd. So for the first instalment of my presentation, I'm going to discuss the key performance indicators we can use in the weaning phase to understand how our herds are performing. Next slide, please, Chris. So the 3 KPIs I'm going to focus on are calf daily live weight gain from birth to weaning. The second one is weaning percentage, which is how many calves you have reared in proportion to how many cows and heifers went to the bull. And the third KPI is cow efficiency. So this looks at calf weight at weaning compared to its mother's weight, and that calculates a percentage. And I'll talk about each of these KPIs in turn. Next slide, please, Chris. So the first KPI is average daily live weight gain from birth to weaning. Now, this is an important KPI to use because it provides a really good indication of the calf's genetics, its mother's milking ability, and also nutrition. Now, the target during this stage is 1.1 kilos per day, and that is if you aren't providing creep. So if you are feeding creep, it should be higher than that. Next slide, please, Chris. So if you want to have a better understanding of your cow's milking ability, and are happy to do so, the best thing to do is weigh your calves at 100 days. At this point, the majority of their nutrition is coming from their mother. So it's a really good indicator of her milking ability. Once the calf is 6.5 months old, so roughly about 200 days, 75% of its nutrition will be from feeds other than milk. So the impact of the dam's milking ability is less apparent. Now, around weaning, try to minimise the weaning check as much as possible. If it is possible to keep the calves in the same environment and on the same diet that they were pre-weaning, this will reduce the impact it has on their growth rates. It's also important to think about vaccines, so try and administer them before the stressful event. In autumn calving systems, it makes sense to leave calves on cows as long as possible to prevent her getting over-conditioned before calving, and it also helps to keep feed costs down as well. However, calves should be weaned at least 5 weeks before their dam's next calving, so that she has enough time to produce the necessary colostrum, and also her previous calf isn't consuming it all as well. And conversely, in spring calving systems, if you have some thin-looking cows or some first calf heifers that need a little TLC before the housing period, then wean their calves. As long as the calves are over 5 months of age, they won't come to any harm by being weaned early, and it shouldn't affect their growth rates too much. Next slide, please, Chris. Now, I personally would say this KPI, which is calves weaned, is probably the most important KPI in the Suckler calendar. This provides a great indication of your herd's performance. So at the end of the day, if your cows aren't weaning a calf each year, then it's going to be extremely challenging to make any margin out of them. So the target is for at least 94% of cows to wean a calf. It's never realistic to expect this to be 100% because this is calculated from those cows and heifers that went to the bull. So you're always going to have a few barren cows that have since been culled. So my recommendations for increasing weaning percentage include cull your unproductive cows after PD testing. So these cows will be costing you money. And when you think of the pressure the industry is under to reduce our environmental impact, culling these unproductive cows is probably one of the best ways to do this. And interestingly, BCMS figures show that only 82% of suckler cows are producing a calf each year. So we definitely have some hanger-oners. Fertility is heritable, and therefore only retain heifers from those cows that calve within the first 3 weeks of the calving period. These will be out of your most fertile cows. And if you are interested in looking a bit more at calf mortality, compare your weaning percentage with calves born alive or scanning percentage. This will tell you how many cows aborted, how many stillbirths you've had, and also how many you've lost since calving. Next slide, please, Chris. And the final KPI I wanted to look at during this weaning phase is cow efficiency. Now, cow efficiency is a great indicator of cow performance and also cost of production. So it's calculated by dividing the calf weight by the cow's weight as a percentage. And ideally, each cow wants to be producing at least 45% of her weight at weaning, with a recommendation from Breedr of 50%. And this really does differ from cow to cow. So as part of my masters, I looked at cow efficiency across an 80 head herd of autumn calving sucklers, and their cow and calf weight are plotted on the graph on the right hand side of the screen. And as you can see from the graph, just within this herd, there's a huge difference between cow weights and calf weights. What we want is these cows highlighted in the bottom, who weigh around 550 to 600 kilos and are producing around a 275 kilo calf at 200 days. Those highlighted in red at the top of the screen are less productive, and they're producing the same calf weight but are weighing more themselves. Now, these larger cows will naturally have higher feed requirements, and actually a study by AHDB found that the optimum cow size in the UK is 680 kilos, and cows over 750 kilos not only require more feed, but they also require it to be of a higher feed quality as well, which results in feed costs increasing at a faster rate. Now, cow efficiency isn't everything. It will obviously differ year on year, but it's definitely one to watch and another one to have in the all-important toolbox. Next slide, please, Chris. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of those KPIs. If anybody has any questions on what I've just discussed, please do send them in.
Perfect. No, that's great. Thank you very much, Sarah. Yeah, I think the cow efficiency is quite an interesting topic. Yeah, as Sarah said, you know, please you know, drop some questions into the Q&A or the chat box. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to steal the mic first before we kind of take any of those questions. And what we'll do is I'm just going to show you a quick kind of demo of Breedr and the features that you can use to capture that weaning related data, and then we'll have we'll pick up your questions later afterwards and have a proper discussion. So I suppose you know, weaning, probably one of the most you know, important data points to capture is the weight, and not, you know, not just of the calf, as we've just heard. So from the home page here on the mobile app, there's a little icon down here, a little weigh icon. If you click on that, then what that does is that will launch the our effectively what we're calling crush mode. So from this page here, you can either click on quick weigh, and that will launch crush mode, you know, straight away, and you can get weighing. Or alternatively, if you click on the setup session, what that does is that enables you to set up drafting rules. So what I've done here in this session is I've called it weaning. I'm going to be logging the weights, and actually what I'm going to be doing is, based on some conditions, I'm going to be drafting animals. So I might already have in my animals list, I've got all of my cows and calves together in one field, but you know, again, what I'm actually doing is I'm weaning, so I'm going to put my cows in one field and my calves into another. So the scenario here is all of my calves are going to go into big field, and the condition is for every animal that comes into crush mode, if they are their DOF is days on farm. So that is effectively, if they've been on farm from now until the 1st of August, then they will be drafted into big fields. So again, it's just a way of using crush mode to manage and organize your animals. And so once I've set up that session, I click launch session, then that opens up crush mode, and I can connect all of my Bluetooth enabled equipment, which I'll explain in a minute. But once you have created that session and launched it, what it does is, again, what you can see from the middle screen again, is it saves it as a template. So once I've set that session up, the next time I come in to wean, or to do whatever, if I've already set up that template, then it will be there, and I can click that, and it will go straight into crush mode, which looks a little bit like this. So this is a video, obviously, of crush mode working. So the all singing and all dancing crush mode is, you can connect if you've got a Bluetooth compatible wayhead and a EID reader. So this, in the video, you'll see this is a panel reader. So a panel attached to the side of the crush picks up the EID number, or if you've got one of these, which is just a normal stick reader, then again you can connect to stick reader. And what that basically does is the animal comes in, it reads the EID, so it picks up the EID. The weight, as you can see there, 257, is pulled straight through as well. The animal then leaves the crush, the next one comes in, and again, crush mode will read the EID, it will create another animal record, and the weight comes in again. So really simple, really quick. But like I said, if you don't have any Bluetooth equipment, it's not a problem. You can still manually search for the animal, just read the ear tag, and again, you can still manually tap in the weight if it's not a Bluetooth compatible device. So that is effectively getting all of your weights. So obviously, we would encourage, and we'll probably discuss it a little bit more in a minute, weigh both the calves and also the cows. So again, once you've done that, the other bit of important data to capture at weaning time is when the calves have actually been weaned. And again, this is a incredibly simple activity. You just log it against the calves. But what you can do is you can do you can log that against a bulk number of animals. So if I navigate to my cattle, clicking at the bottom, and I say I've got my 2021 calves there, I can click into that group. I can then select all of them. And when I click on the manage button, navigate through the activities, I can then select weaning there from all of these list of breeding activities that I can log, select weaning. And then effectively what that does is it just captures the dates that they were weaned. And like I said at the beginning, that will effectively conclude that that breeding cycle, ready for the next one to start. So once you've kind of caught all of that data, so weights and weaning, what it does is on the web app, we have got what we call a breeding KPIs report, which again is divided up into those 4 sections, so service, PD, calving, and weaning. And this is where we calculate, using the data that you've caught using the mobile. That's where we calculate all of these key KPIs for you. And again, it's divided up into service year. So once you've started a service year, and once you've ended it with weaning, then we roll on to the next one, so you can have annual comparisons. So within that report, if we focus just purely on the weaning metrics, so what we've got here is we've got calves weaned as a % of calves born. So, but also we've got calves weaned as % of cows and heifers served, which that target of 94%, as explained in Sarah's presentation, that is quite a critical KPI, because like Sarah said, that's effectively our output for that entire breeding cycle, which may last 18 months, from the point of service all the way end up to weaning. So what that will tell us is, the scale of loss of potential output. The top metric, obviously calves weaned as % of calves born, well, that is telling us, within that, say, 18-month breeding cycle, where have we lost, how many calves have we lost from birth, rather than previous. But so that's the really, really critical one. And then obviously we've got our average calf daily live weight gain, so birth to 200 days. In the Breedr app, we calculate it from birth to 200 days, so that every year it's a standardized metric. You know, one year you might, you know, the average weaning age might be 7 months, the next one might be 8 months. So, you know, your daily live weight gain can change within that month. So what we do is we just standardize it at 200 days. So it's comparable every year. And then again, what we've been highlighting on is that, you know, that efficiency metric of the cow. So the average calf 200-day weight as a percent of the cow mature weight, you know, with that target of 45 to 50%. So the breeding KPIs report, what that basically does is that takes all of the data against all of the cows, and it takes an average figure. So it's an average a herd level. Whereas the dam offspring performance report, it's a separate report. What this does is this provides a lot more granular individual cow information. So what you can see already is, if I start this little video, I'll just pause it there. What you've got here is, because every calf would have a registered dam, the weight that you are recording against those calves, what that then does is every calf that a cow has, is this report takes the average of all of those calves, the daily live weight gain, and effectively it says, right, what is the average daily live weight gain of a dam's offspring, and then you can see here that effectively it ranks the cows in order. So you can see that, you know, this cow at the top, 106, the average daily live weight gain of her offspring is, you know, 1.4. Whereas, you know, I've got some cows down here that are only doing 0.7, so that, you know, literally half the daily live weight gain. So, you know, if that is a key metric for me, then, you know, I can isolate these top performing cows and I can, you know, selectively breed from them. What the report shows kind of further on down, again, this is daily live weight gain by age, but at the bottom, what this now does is it takes all of those other metrics and it provides you a list of every individual animal. So this is the weights. So what we can see here is we can see the dam on the first column. We've got the average weight at 100 days, average weight at 200 days, and the daily live weight gains in between. And if you add in carcass information, then it will show the average carcass weight as well. Each column you can sort from top to bottom. So depending on what is a really key metric for you, so whether it's that 100 days or 200 days or it's carcass weight, again, you can order the cows and rank the cows from top to bottom in terms of your business's preference. And again, you can make selective decisions from that. So again, we've got on this report, so we got the weights, but then again, for our 4 key periods of the breeding cycle, service and pregnancy, calving and weaning. So if we focus on, my slides will work, on the weaning tabs, when I click on weaning, then again, what we get here is, again, the first column is the list of all of the dams, number of calves weaned as a percent of calves born, average calf 200-day weight, and then we've got here that 200-day weight as a percent of cow mature weight. So, and then we've got the average dam weight as well at 200 days. So, you know, again, you can see, you know, this cow up here, you know, average calf. So I've ordered this in terms of its calf 200-day weight. So on average, she's providing the heaviest calf, of which they're, you know, 63% of the cow's mature weight at that 200-day point. So again, it just gives you a really nice overview of the performance of your cows at weaning, so you can make selection decisions from. So I'd like to kind of invite Sarah and Charlie back in now. We'll have a bit of a discussion of whether Charlie is with us or not, whether she's gone lambing. She is here. No emergencies yet then, Charlie?
No, I'm here,
right?
I'm here.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
No, you're all good.
Cool, okay. Well, I mean, I'd kind of like to just open up a bit of a discussion. So kind of, I'll point the question at Sarah first, if I may. Sarah, I kind of want to go back to the cow efficiency metric, you know, that 45-50% of mature weight, because I suppose there must be a bit of a a fallacy of, big cows equal big calves. Is that kind of something that isn't necessarily true? And if that is there, what kind of techniques or tactics can we do to achieve smaller mature cow weights?
Yeah, so so there has been a bit of a trend. I think maybe it's come from us chasing bigger carcass weights, that mature cow size has been increasing over the past number of years. And I think we've now realised that that cow mature size actually relates to feed costs. So obviously the higher the cow weight, the higher her maintenance costs. So it costs more just basically to keep her going. So many farmers are now looking at that, looking at what their mature cow size is. I mean, I was actually speaking to a farmer today who recognised that he had some really heavy cows in his herd. And what he did was, once they got to a certain age, maybe were late in the calving block, he was deciding then to gradually cull them out. And what you will notice is that those cows don't necessarily produce a larger calf at weaning. And an interesting study that was actually published last year by AHDB, like I said, found that the ideal kind of mature cow size in the UK is about 680 kilos. If you can increase that to about 700 kilos if that cow can make do with forage and grass through winter. But that 680 kilos is really what we are aiming for. And when I did my Nuffield, most cows over there were only like 550 kilos, so they were significantly smaller than ours. I do think that's maybe a little bit too small for our systems here, but yeah, I think there's some way to go in just reducing that cow size.
Yeah, no, interesting. And I kind of want to swing this kind of straight over to Charlie, because Charlie, I'm aware that you have Simmentals. So I didn't know whether, is the mature cow size something that you kind of keep an eye on, or is that something you look into?
Yeah, so it's one thing that we've really kept quite a close eye on over the years. So, our system, just for those you don't know, our system's quite traditional. We're sucklers with we sell the majority of them as stores in the local market. We've until now we've never weighed. We're just doing it. It's done on eye. Heifers selected on eye. But one thing we don't like is big cows. And we do we're running Simmental bulls, keeping our own replacement heifers. So the majority of our cows now are Simmental cross. We've been running a Simmental bull since 2010. So yeah, and it's funny, like, I don't know if it's more noticeable because you think that's a big cow, it should produce a big calf, but we've always found that the big cows will produce piddly little things, and they'll just put everything into themselves. So in our eyes, almost being a big cow is the first of three strikes. So she doesn't get much. There's not much leniency when it comes to them. Others will get leniency on other things, but and to be fair, we would be around that 700 kilo mark with our average cows. We've got a couple that are a bit big that might drag it up a bit, but we wouldn't be far off that. So.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know a kind of question to maybe both of you, whoever wants to get in there first, is there a way that we can effectively breed for, take Charlie's situation, they're Simmental bulls. Is there a way, is it a genetic trait, mature cow size? Is calving at 24 months, is that going to help, mature size? What kind of breeding strategies can we employ?
We've always had in mind that the younger we breed them, the more compact the cow stays, whether that's right or not, but we've had it, if we can get them in calf younger and they calve at a younger age, none of ours will calve over under 24 months, under 2 years, but if they're left any longer, then that's when we worry about them getting big and roomy. And then we also because we don't like big cows, that's one thing that we have kept a record of. So if a heifer comes off a big cow, you know, she's a straight no, really. So I guess we've kind of selectively bred for it with our replacements, kind of, and yeah, without really meaning to. So
yeah, that's it, Charlie. I mean, I know some farmers who deliberately won't bull their biggest heifers because, again, they're just conscious of that cow mature weight and keeping it down. Because, like you say, Chris, it definitely is heritable.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And just a question, just going to move slightly on, just a question from the audience is that target daily live weight gain from birth to weaning of about 1.1 kilos. Sarah, is that still, you know, like achievable with such, you know, with much smaller native breeds, things like the example breed, I can't remember I'm going to pronounce this, but the Luings, is that how you Klings? Should have just said like Angus or something, but yeah, no. So yeah, you know, is it, you know, because those cows again naturally are going to be much smaller. Are we still aiming to achieve that kilo daily live weight gain?
Yeah, we should still be trying to aim for that kilo live weight. I mean, those cows will probably naturally be smaller than some other breeds, but they still should have the growth rates that we look for. So a kilo per day is quite a good target to aim for in any breed.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, excellent. Right, cool. Okay, well, again, I'm going to try to be a bit more onto my timekeeping this evening. So, thank you very much. And what we'll kind of do now is we'll move on to the second part of this evening. So, you know, the first part was you know, talking about weaning, and now we're going to move on and discuss pregnancy diagnosis. So, again, in the same format. Sarah, if I can hand over to you, and again, just keep prompting me for those slides.
It's a very sweet calf in that picture. It's lovely. Yeah, so thanks, Chris. I'm now going to chat through the key performance indicators we should be looking at around PDing. So Chris, if you won't mind just moving on the slide. So the KPIs that I'm going to discuss for the next 5 minutes or so are scanning positive percentage, and also the percentage of calvings in the first 3 weeks of the calving period. So I'll start with scanning first. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so hopefully most of you who are listening are already pregnancy diagnosing your cows and heifers, but for those of you who don't, it is a really useful management tool, and that's for a number of different reasons. So first of all, it provides a really good indication of when cows will be calving so that you can strategically feed them. You can also identify those difficult twin pregnancies that are a bit more riskier. You can, of course, cull barren cows after weaning, so that's a big cost. You don't have to keep them through the winter months. You can also detect bull infertility earlier on. I mean, I know it's not going to help you after the breeding season, but at least you can identify that there has been a problem and try and sort out the bull. And you can also choose to sell later calving cows. Now, there are two different ways of PDing. Both are mainly carried out by the vet, to be honest. So the first is manual palpation, and this can be carried out at least 8 weeks after the bull is taken out, but it is most successfully done after 5 months. And the second is ultrasound scanning. Now, this can be done sooner, so after about 6 weeks that the bull's been removed. And it provides a really accurate indication of pregnancy quite early on. And this, of course, helps with feed management and everything like that. Next slide, please, Chris. So what we're hoping for is that greater than 96% of cows and heifers that went to the bull are in calf. Ideally, this needs to be within a 12-week breeding period for cows, and if possible, a 9-week breeding period for heifers. So it's no good achieving this if you're leaving the bulls in permanently, because this isn't really going to select for fertility in your females. So to achieve a good PD result, nutrition really is key. And it's true that preparation for bulling starts at the previous calving. And this is because the egg for the next pregnancy starts to develop in the last trimester of the previous pregnancy. So therefore, it's really important that cows are in the correct body condition score at calving, which is around 2.5 to 3. So it's extremely difficult to get cows to the correct body condition score for service after they have calved. And that's because they've got a lot going on. So, and that's particularly for those first calved heifers. So make sure they are in at least body condition score 2.5 before calving to ensure good PD results. So health will also have negative implications on conception rates. So make sure you're testing for things like BVD. A bull MOT is also really worthwhile completing before the start of the breeding season. And this will ensure that your bull is fit for work, and also gives you enough time that if he isn't, you can draft another bull in. And finally, my last piece of advice is around management during the breeding period. So studies have shown that 75% of embryonic loss occurs during the first 42 days after conception. And this is because it takes 42 days for the egg to implant. And therefore, any changes to management during this time can have a big impact on embryo survivability. So therefore, if you can, try and keep management consistent 6 weeks before the breeding season and 6 weeks after as well. And that will hopefully ensure that your conception rates are good and you're achieving that 96%. Next slide, please, Chris. And finally, I just wanted to touch on percentage calving in the first 3 weeks. Now, I know you aren't going to know this until after calving time, but some of you spring calvers might be busy now, so this might be relevant for you. So ideally, we want at least 65% of our cows and heifers calving in the first 3 weeks of the calving period. So why is this important? Well, it brings a number of benefits, including simpler management of cows and heifers. You also have an even batch of calves at weaning, so it makes management much easier. It also results in increased weaning weights, which is obviously what we want. And there's also less labour requirement over calving because you're getting it done and dusted quickly. Furthermore, you have fewer calf health problems. We all know the problems that come into play when you're mixing older animals with younger animals. So it's better that they are all the same age. And finally, poor performing cows can't hide. So you're always going to be able to identify those. And finally, you have improved fertility of the herd, which is really what we want. As discussed in the previous webinar a couple of weeks ago, fertility really is key to profitability in the suckler herd. And this is a really good way of identifying your fertile cows and also the ones that maybe should be heading down the road. Next slide, please, Chris. So thank you very much. That was just a whistle-stop tour. Again, any questions, please do send them in.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much once again. Yeah, again, please send in any questions, type them now while they're in your heads. We're going to move on now. I'm just going to do a quick demo of the PD related features of Breedr, but please send in questions for Sarah and Charlie, and we'll pick them up in a couple short minutes at the end of the session. So again, just like what Sarah just said, PD testing, will be done normally by the vet, normally in the crush. So like I showed you earlier, we can log a PD test activity whilst in crush mode. So again, if you're clicking on that weigh icon on the bottom right hand corner, you're launching a crush session, and then you're selecting the cow that comes in. You might take the weight as well while she's there, and then from here, while the vet is doing his or her thing, you can click on the yellow plus icon in the middle of the screen, and what this will do. Oh, my slides have all gone funny. There we go. What this will do, so click on the yellow plus icon, and what this will do is this will open up this list of options here. And if at the very bottom you can see log activity, if you navigate through the activities menu and find PD test, once you open up that activity, in the very top right hand corner, there's a little star icon. If you click that star icon, then that makes that activity a favorite, so that when you just click on the yellow plus icon from crush mode, then that activity will sit there at the top. So there and then I can click on PD test, and again the data input is very simple. It defaults to that day's date, and then it's just a matter of saying whether she is positive or negative. And if she's positive, then hopefully the vet will give you an indication of how many days in calf she already is. So if you type that in, then that will then generate, we as Breedr can then predict and give you an estimated due date. So once you've logged a positive PD test activity against an animal, what that then does is that then updates her pregnancy status. So you can see within my cows group, I've just PD tested all of these cows, and they've all got a little pregnant icon if they were all positive. And then, like I just said, from the home screen, what you've got here is you've got all these updates and alerts. Well, what it will do is it will create, for a positive PD test, it will then create an alert, based on the days since conception. And for the minute, we're just taking an average gestation length of 281 days. As time goes on, and Breedr will get more sophisticated, what we will be able to do, the more data we collect, is we will be able to not use the average gestation length, but we'll be able to use the actual gestation length of that individual cow. So again, that's the scope of where we can go, but we need more data coming into the system for us in order to calculate those kind of analytics. So when I click on, there we go. So when I click on, say I clicked on all updates and alerts, again, what I can do is I can filter. So I can filter on what alerts are coming up in the next 7 days or up to 30 days. And that just gives me a really good indication on the phone there and then, right, what animal is due, whether it's today or tomorrow or, in the next 7 days. So again, it just gives me an indication of, right, so, number 22381 there at the bottom, right, she's not due until the 20th, but, maybe I'll just start to keep my eye on her, just to see if there's any calving activity, she's bagging up or whatever. It just helps give a bit of a head start on these things. So that's obviously really beneficial at the time of calving, but at the time of PD testing, when you are logging those positive PD tests, you're putting in those days to conception, it's generating all of those alerts. What you can then do is you can go straight onto the web app, and you can go to the alerts report, filter your alerts by pregnancy due date, and effectively what that will give you there and then is a calving calendar. It's estimated, obviously, but it does give you an indication, and this could be 4 or 5 months before they're even due to calve. It gives you an indication of your calving spread. It will give you an indication already of, you know, the percent of cows that are going to be calving in the first 3 weeks. So, you know, you've already got, you know, however long it is, 4 or 5 months, or, you know, whenever you start PD testing, just to start the ball rolling with management. So, you know, really useful tool. Just gives you, you know, plenty of time to prepare. And then again, so sticking with the reports, so this is the pregnancy diagnosis metrics on the breeding KPI report that I showed you earlier. So again, you know, all we're showing here really is the percent of cows that are scanned positive and negative. And then again, what it does is it plots that over time. So, you know, you can see, you know, whether you had a particularly good year or bad year for conception. You know, and again, if you had one particularly bad year, then, you know, maybe you can think back to why that was, you know, whether it was, you know, your nutrition, you know, like Sarah was saying, you know, pre-calving, you know, whether something happened that year. You know, it's just, you know, the power of data is you know, is quite strong. So it just helps you give those kind of insights. So you know, that kind of concludes a bit of a demo, you know, those kind of tools that you can get from around PD testing. So again, if Sarah and Charlie want to join me, and, you know, please, you know, any other questions, any other queries, you know, keep firing them through. I'm assuming Charlie has gone lambing, so just the two of us now. For now. Oh no, we do.
No, my buttons at the top of my screen are not playing ball.
Oh right, okay,
Sorry.
fine. Bit of a delay. That's all right, no problem. No, that's good. I'm glad you're here. Okay, cool. Well, again, I'll kind of open a bit of a discussion. We've got about kind of 5 to 7 minutes before we close. So, Charlie, I'll kind of come to you first. Obviously, like, we know about your farming system this time of year. You've got lambing going on, you've got calving going on. I also know you've got a fairly, you know, fair bit of arable work. The spring can, I almost found from my experience of working on an arable farm, that spring can almost be busier than summer sometimes, with spring drilling and fertilizer and spray and everything going on. So, I mean, is there any way that you manage your time kind of during this period? Is there, you know, how do you do that? Or was it all just a bit kind of hands to the pump and take it day by day?
It completely depends on the weather. So, yeah, completely weather dependent. So, yeah, like we're pretty lax with pregnancy diagnosing. We're not very routine with it. We tend to, we're spring calving predominantly. We then calve about 20 in the autumn. But yeah, we've 85 suckler cows, and yeah, the majority of them are spring calving. Anything that hasn't calved by when we're looking to turn out, we will then PD. And if she's not in calf, then sometimes they get the benefit of the doubt if they're a younger cow, which I disagree with, but that's one to work on. And then otherwise they'll go. So yeah, we bulled our heifers last year, and we started with good intentions. So we had a chat about it, and I convinced them that, you know, we'll put the bull in for 6 weeks, and then anything that's in, like, we'll bull more than we usually would. Anything that's not in calf goes. We've not lost anything, and then we'll PD. And the bull came out after, it's about 10.5 weeks in the end. But you know, the thought was there at the beginning, and then so we'll be PDing them soon. So they'll be it's a bit of a pain in the backside, but they'll be like summer calving really. So they'll be like late spring, early summer. So we will be PDing them, and then what isn't in calf will go. But other than that, yeah, we are pretty lax with the PDing, which is a bugbear of mine. And I would like to get get on it a bit more, just so we could be a bit more ruthless. Yeah, it is.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is, yeah, you know, and I think it's very much that attitude of, well, it's worked, like, you know, it's just another job to do, why bother, you know, we might as well just calve what calves and then turn the rest out. And the other thing is we had trouble with a bull about 6-7 years ago, and with a low semen count and a load of the cows weren't in calves, so that then our calving, like our calving period went haywire, and so that was, you know, it's taken years to get that back, really. So I think at the moment that it's just a kind of a case of just be glad that the calving period's fairly tight, like, you know, we're calving at the moment, so yeah, and I mean, at the moment, touch wood, they're coming thick and fast, and let's hope this continues for another couple of weeks and we'll be done with. So but yeah, it is very lax, really.
Yeah,
there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, no, that's good. And actually that kind of leads me just on to kind of asking Sarah, in terms of that calving period, so managing that calving period. I mean, obviously, you know, what Charlie is trying to do already with you know, leaving the bull out for a certain time period and bring them out, that's probably going to be the best way of managing that calving period. Is by the time you get to PD testing, is it a little bit too late in terms of managing that calving period? You know, is there, you know, a way of, I don't know, can you sell some slightly, you know, later calving ones? Is there, I suppose what I'm saying is PD testing, that is it, that's what you get. Is there any way that you can manipulate or manage that calving period by that time or not?
Yeah, so PDing is really a good management tool, and if you do it early enough, you will be able to tell when those cows are going to calve in the calving period. So if you were looking to try and cull some of your unproductive ones, then that would be a really good opportunity. Also in Charlie's case, you'd be able to identify those barren cows a bit earlier as well. So maybe, you know, as soon as they're weaned, kind of finish them and get them off the farm, which I think then is a really good opportunity to bring in a fertile heifer, you know, and try and improve your fertility that way. I mean, obviously, once you've PD'd, it is too late to kind of do anything about it. You've still got, you can't do anything about the number of calves you're going to get. But what you can do is think, right, I've got this scanning result. What can I do next year to improve that? So whether that's looking back and having a look at nutrition, or what body condition score they're in, or even if you had a problem with health. So that's always a good time. You know, you've got the vet there anyway who is pregnancy testing. So if you are disappointed with the result, then it's always a good opportunity to pick their brains as well. And try and get to the bottom of it. But yeah, I mean, you know, like Charlie says, some cows, you might give them the benefit of the doubt, but that's why these systems such as Breedr are really useful, because then, well, the next year, if she misses again, you can think, oh, well, actually, last year, she didn't have a calf either. So you can soon, yeah, those infertile cows unfortunately have no escaping then when you've got the data in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. I think for those of you who missed our the webinar we did last month on calving, two things that have kind of, well, one thing that came out of that webinar for me, and two things that have come out of this webinar so far tonight is, you know, things like culling, weaning, and PD testing, is they are, without maybe some of us don't really quite realize, incredibly powerful management tools. You know, they are things that are in our arsenal to help improve you know, the fertility and the productivity of our herds, and you know, maybe something that maybe should be kind of picked up on a little bit more. I don't know if anyone kind of wants to comment on that at all, kind of open that up to both of you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some really useful tips. It isn't kind of reinventing the wheel. It's just using what I call the different tools in the toolbox that you can pick out and choose. And it's just about using which ones suit your system to make sure you're always selecting for for fertility, which will always have a big impact on profitability in the herd. I don't know, Charlie, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I don't know if I really can add anything to you, really, Sarah. I found the last webinar, like, even sat here as a panelist, it was fascinating, and it was nice to kind of reiterate kind of the things I think about with the maternal values, and you know, what you talked about with the Maternal Matters campaign and stuff like that. I found really, really helpful, and it gave me some backup then to take away and use. So yeah, I personally found that really helpful. So
good. And I know there's always, like, Breedr, they provide some really good information, don't they? And there's always AHDB resources and stuff as well for anybody that's interested.
Yeah, well, at the moment we're just trying to put as much information into the app as we can, just to try and get that started to use the KPIs as much as we can. So yeah, it's really nice to be building up that data bank. So
brilliant.
Perfect. Absolutely. And again, this is kind of the whole point of tonight, and our kind of SucklerClub initiative is to bring all of this together. So perfect. Well, I think just kind of one final thing. I'm just going to give. I'm going to kind of wrap it up now. We are amazingly on time. Again, for those who weren't at the calving webinar, we still had another half an hour to go because my timing skills weren't great. But yeah, nailed it tonight. That's good. So I just want to again just say a massive thank you to everyone who's kind of spent their evening with us tonight. Massive thank you to both Sarah and Charlie again for spending their evenings with us as well. But yeah, I just want to give just before we kind of sign off, I just want to give Sarah the opportunity. You know, Sarah and the team at AHDB do, you know, a lot of fantastic work for everyone. So I just want to give Sarah the opportunity just to kind of explain what they're doing in their movement for next month.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so hopefully by now everybody listening will be aware about the AHDB Shape the Future vote. So in April 2022, all levy payers will be able to vote on the things that your levy is spent on. So it's your opportunity to tell us what you think are the biggest challenges for your sector and how you would like your levy spending. So to be able to vote, you first need to register. Registration is open but closes at the end of this month, so you only have a couple of weeks left to register, and I know everybody's getting really busy with calving and lambing, so whilst it's in your mind, please do register, because if you don't register you won't be able to vote. So to register, please just go on the AHDB website, and there'll be a link there that takes you to the registration page. As a levy payer myself, I really do recommend you take the time to have your say, because after all, it is your levy. So it's really important you have a say on how it's spent. So please go on the website, register, or if not, please do contact anybody at AHDB and they will be able to do it for you. Thanks, Chris.
Perfect. No, that's great. My pleasure. Okay, well, yeah, no, thank you very much again to both Sarah and Charlie and everyone on the call, and I'll let you all back to enjoy the rest of your evenings, and yeah, thank you again once again.
Thank you.
Thanks all.